If you've been paying attention, we're doing some tests. I'm going to be rebroadcasting the balance of hour one and hour two.
What this country is coming to, I sure would like to know. If they don't do something by and by, the rich will live and the poor will die. Doggone, I mean the panic is on. Can't get no way, can't draw no pay. Unemployment getting worse.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And a reminder that Republic Broadcasting Network is holding a fundraising drive. And we need your financial assistance to stay on the air, to keep replacing equipment that wears out. A lot of the stuff that we have here acts like it's manufactured from compressed rust. And so every once in a while, we have to buy new cables, new mixers, new whatever. I've lost count of the number of computers I've gone through over the last, I guess it's 13 years I've been doing radio, and close to 30 years I've been doing the website. So we really do need your help. And the postal address where you can send a check, money order, or if you prefer anonymity cash, is Republic Broadcasting Network, 2251 Double Creek Drive, number 302, Round Rock, Texas, 78664. The phone number where you can make a credit card or debit card donation is 800-724-2719, extension 3. The network thanks you, and I thank you. All righty, let's take a phone call from Dustin in New Jersey. Aloha, Dustin. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
I got a couple questions because you're the know-it-all, man. You know pretty much everything about Mike, this virus. Like, if it gets into, like, say somebody like, because you know the theory is, well, the conspiracy theory is like, you know, if it was made to kill China, like Asians or this or that, but if it kills people over here that aren't Asian, like, will it mutate? Like, if it gets into, like, say, a non-Asian body, right? And will it can that how like mutate into something else? You know what I mean? Like, will it mutate into a different variety of the strain, or can it do that?
Yeah, there's always the possibility of mutation, especially because artificially created viruses tend to be genetically unstable, and they will spontaneously mutate. Now, whether that mutation is being caused by being in a non-Asian body, I seriously doubt that. But the fact that it could mutate and start killing indiscriminately, cannot be dismissed.
I just, like, I still don't understand, like, why, how's this thing supposed to be so great in the cold weather, but yet weak in the warm weather? But Iran, what's the temperature on Iran right now? Like, does anybody know? It can't be cold, right? I mean, I wouldn't think right now. I mean, but so I don't know why is there cases going up over there?
Well,
you know, like, unless it was, you know.
It may be possible that Donald Trump was smoking opium when he was out there saying when the weather gets warm, the virus will die. Some viruses do die. That's one of the reasons why when you get sick, you develop a fever. Your body is trying to kill off the pathogen. But you need to understand, Iran is not all desert. They have mountains, they have ski slopes. A lot of Iranians love to ski. And it's winter there as well as it is winter here.
I feel, you know, Mike, I feel so bad for them and Venezuela and Cuba and Iraq for what we've done, like with the sanctions. Like, lift the sanctions on Iran. Like,
yes.
Bring in medical aid to help them. Now, have you heard anything about helping them? you know? Like, I mean, I haven't heard squat about, like, just dropping all the sanctions and bringing in help for them to get it under control.
Not a word. Not a word.
See? Yeah, and you know what's sad, Mike? Like, the CDC is privately owned, right, over here. That's not federal. That's like the Federal Reserve, right?
It's a private company, yes.
So basically, if you put it in the hands of the federal government, it'll fail. But the Federal Reserve is private, so is the CDC, and they failed by sending out all those test kits that were, like, defective, right?
Yes.
So wherever you go, they're like failures. You know, like it's a you know what, Mike? It's a bureaucracy either way, right?
Yes.
You know, or corporate. How do you say it? Corporate entity.
Corporatocracy.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, but like, hey, did you hear about that Republican councilwoman? I don't know if this is true. That she said if she got coronavirus, because she's a Trump supporter, she's going to go to a MAGA rally. Like, why would you say something so stupid like that? You know, like, so if you got the coronavirus, you're going to go to a rally and infect other people that support Trump. To say something crazy like that is not. And you know, I was listening to Rush Limbaugh today. I don't really listen to the whole thing because I don't really like him. He had Bill O'Reilly on there, you know, pushing his new book, Killing Crazy Horse, because every book Bill O'Reilly does has the first word "killing" in it, which is scary. But like, they're saying, oh, look at if Crazy Bernie gets in, the stock markets will drop even more than it is now. They go, look at what it's doing now. This is from Bill O'Reilly. Look, if the stock market's dropping from the people who have a little sniffle, I'm like, this is not something to just snicker at. I see people on the Zero Hedge forums make just like a joke about it. You know, like it's just the flu or this or that. We don't know. You know,
That's right.
This is not the flu,
really
first
know.
of all.
All right, Dustin, stay on the line. I'm going to put you on hold. We're going to come right back to you after these words from our sponsors.
If you got the money, honey, we got the bombs. We'll plant 'em anywhere you like and blow up anyone. Whip this world into a frenzy, killing babies, dads, and moms. If you got the money, honey, we got the bombs. If you got the money, well, we won't say we did. The towers in New York.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. We're talking with Dustin in New Jersey. And Dustin, have you ever heard of the Peter Principle?
No.
Well, the Peter Principle says that in any large hierarchical structure, everybody gets promoted up to a job that they're incompetent for. And that, I think, would explain a lot that's going on both in corporate America and within the government itself.
And that's not good when you have like a crisis, like some kind of a outbreak of something, or you have bickering in political parties that are trying to get their own points out and this or that. We're in bad shape, you know, because it's like this. There's like a dysfunctionality throughout our government, you know, that, and you know, like people who work for the CDC who are told to keep quiet, go through Mike Pence. They might not like that because they don't like Trump, you know, so they're going to come out maybe through a third party, you know, and have numbers they come out with that are trying to be kept quiet, you know. But that John Campbell, I spoke about him Friday, the Dr. John Campbell on YouTube. He said that there was a British scientist, a woman, who said that this looks like it might be coming partially aerosolized. Which, what does that mean? It's slightly able to survive in the air?
That's essentially what it means. What it means is when you cough or sneeze, you're producing an aerosol of your phlegm, little microscopic droplets of liquid, and the virus particles can live inside there for quite some time. By the way, somebody just sent me an email. Apparently the temperature in Tehran right now is hovering between 30 and 40 degrees, so it's not warm over there.
Okay, wow. So that would. And then did you catch Mike Pence? Him and the head of the CDC. I know masks don't work. Certain masks work to an extent, but then he went to that 3M plant or something, and they're making millions of masks or something. So it's crazy. You know, it's like I said. It's like Leslie Nielsen. Nothing to see here. Move on. And the house is on fire in the back of him. You know, and Naked Gun. You know, it's crazy. You know, I think the only mask that would like truly work is probably like a nuclear, biological, chemical.
Well, supposedly the masks that will work are N95 and above. If you can afford one, an N99 And again, it will attenuate the risk. It won't absolutely guarantee that you're never going to catch it, but it will reduce your exposure. The reason they were saying don't bother wearing masks is a concern that the first responders and medical people would run out. But now apparently the 3M is cranking them out by hopefully the millions, that we're all going to be able to have a mask and fool those facial recognition cameras.
Before I get off the phone, but this isn't even really started yet, right? Because of the deaths in Washington State. This is at the early stages over here, right?
Yes.
Like, this is going to get worse. You know, and I just don't like people making fun of it, because remember, you might not get sick fully, but you can carry the virus to your family and your friends. And that's what spreads, because you got community spread going on now that's starting in the United States. So, you know, I just hope everybody's on a not politicize this, but it seems like both sides are, you know, and I think that's the wrong thing to do with something like this. You know, at least with China, even though it's totalitarian, as we call it, hey, they quarantined, their cases went down, supposedly, right? Do you think Americans would want to be quarantined over here? You know, it's like a different culture, you know? That's scary too. You know, people tend to do their own things over here, even though they go out and run out and get canned stuff and they're scared. Some people just have that attitude, like it's not going to hurt me. You know, I'm going to the movie theater with my friends or something, you know, or, you know, that's where it would spread, right? Movie theaters and concerts. And you know.
That's how they're dealing with their fear, is they go into denial, they make jokes. But I think that's a defense mechanism so that they don't freak out worrying about it. In some ways, denial can actually be worse than the hysteria going the other direction. Because at least the hysteria going in the other direction, people are going to stay at home, they're going to self-quarantine. The people who are in denial, you're right, they're the ones who are going to be carrying this illness around to movie theaters and rock concerts and so forth. That's
what scares me, the Western world. You just look at Italy, what's going on there. I mean, their cases are exploding. Oh my God. Like they got did you hear anything about military checkpoints being set up in certain areas over there?
I had not heard that, but one thing that really concerns me, there's this big festival taking place in Spain. It's going to last for 2 weeks, and they're expecting literally millions of tourists to come in.
Yeah, you would think they would cancel that, you know. Plus, you got the migrant crisis. The migrant crisis also. Turkey sending all those refugees in the Greece. At this particular time in history, you don't do that. And don't let them in for crying out loud. I mean, there's a lot of crap going on. All right, Mike, have a good show.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to switch over to Andy in Texas. Andy, what's on your mind today? Andy, are you there?
I hit the button too fast and dumped him. Give him a second.
Okay, then let's go to Neil in Canada. Aloha, Neil. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Michael. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. You're on the air.
Okay, great. I sent you an email earlier today and asked you to read it on air, you know, to your people and to the people.
I remember that.
And you encouraged me to do it. And I'm kind of nervous. I'm not good reading in public, and I suffer a bit from dyslexia. I'm better at writing than reading, but I'll say what I had written. A few years ago, I was working with a small anti-fluoridation group in our local area. While we found out we were doing most of the work, a lot of people believed in our cause. However, they figured that since it was being handled, they didn't need to help out. Those efforts eventually failed because the other side, obviously, used government funds to push back against us, but mostly because we were unable to get the help what we really needed. The help we really needed was other people's strong involvement. I found it frustrating because we were making all the effort, spending our own money, while others were waiting to see what would really happen. If there's something I learned from that experience, that people tend to stand by and watch what will happen, kind of like spectators at a game. I think people actually do want to help out, but something holds them back from acting until that moment gets lost. It's kind of like when you get up and you want to do something, but then you wait for a few minutes until that feeling goes away. From Michael's audience, and I'm part of that audience. I listen almost every day. I believe he has a lot of good things to say and a lot of wisdom. I want to say it only takes a few minutes or moments to support Michael and RBN financially by donating to the website or however you feel appropriate. It always feels right afterwards, and you're glad that when you do it. That way, you can continue to provide the information we need to make good decisions in our own lives. My question is, why not reward Michael for what he is doing? Anyway, that's kind of what I said. Like I said, I'm a little bit nervous, but I just wanted to say it.
No reason to be nervous, and thank you very much for that. And you make a very, very good point. I mean, if you're just sitting there listening and not getting involved, then you're a spectator. When you donate to RBN or whatreallyhappened.com, you become part of the process. And somewhere down the road, when our current situation resolves itself, you'll be able to look back and say, yeah, I got involved. I was part of the process. So Neil, thanks an awful lot, and no reason to be nervous. You did very, very well.
Right.
All right.
And one thing, I just wanted to say that I thought, okay, well, I'm going to remind myself at the beginning of the month, like the 1st or the 2nd or whatever, right at the beginning of the month when I pay some other bills, I'm just going to send in my donation at that point. So that's a good reminder for me. Anyway, thanks a lot, Michael. You're doing a great job.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go and switch over to Paul in New Jersey. Aloha, Paul. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Well, Michael, I've been listening to, as I always do, guys on the right wing, and I got to admit, I check up on the different talk show hosts, and I've noticed among the conservative talk show hosts, many of them are complaining about the mass migration and the foisting of, people into Greece, and what's going on there now as Turkey is basically taking these people that they claim are Syrians, which I don't even believe, and are basically, like shipping them over to Greece and dumping them off on the Greek islands and trying to, use refugees as a political strategy. And that's what the lowlife Erdogan is doing. Now, I have no say about Erdogan, but I'm supposed to have a little say about our own government, what our government's doing concerning this. And here we have an article from Haaretz, because what's happening now, Turkey is trying to conquer and take a province, the Idlib area, from Syria, right? They've been very bellicose. They've allowed ISIS fighters to transition and, use Turkey as a staging area where they can rest and recoup, sometimes get medical attention, and then go over and fight against the Syrian government. And if things get, bad, they just, hop back across the border into Turkey, no harm. And despite all that, Turkey is still a member of NATO. And Donald Trump has led nothing on this issue. He's done nothing. And here's what it says, though, out of Haaretz. It says the U.S. is willing to give Turkey ammunition for fight in Syria's Idlib province. Okay? And then if you go down later in the article, you'll find out that we have a special envoy named James, I think, Jeffrey. And it says, he says, we're willing to provide, for example, the President Trump mentioned this, ammunition. And then he goes on later, Turkey is a NATO ally. We have a very, very big foreign military sales program. Much of the Turkish military uses American equipment. We will make sure that equipment is ready. As a NATO partner, we share information, intelligence, and we're going to ensure that they have what they need there. There you go. There's Donald Trump's foreign policy for you, Trump promoters, the people who thought he was going to stand for Western civilization, the guy that you thought was going to fight against the Islamic conquest of Europe and stop the migrations of the hordes coming from the Middle East and Africa. You thought Trump was going to do that. And here it is, as Greece is getting overwhelmed by these hordes sent by President Erdogan of Turkey. Here it is, the United States is more concerned about making a buck and shipping free ammunition over to the Turks so they can slaughter Syrians and Russians in Syria. There's your country for you. And guess what? And this is why I think you're fantastic, Michael. You would at least cover this issue or discuss it and be disgusted by it.
Yes.
But many of the conservative websites like InfoWars and others, they're silent on it. Silent. And I really was made aware of this over at Zero Hedge. So kudos to those fellows for at least being truthful and being willing to run against your own narrative. And the Trump cheerleaders and the guys out there with the pom-poms, they got to put their pom-poms down. They got to take a hard look about what their leader has done and actually start thinking whether he's really delivering his campaign promises. Whether he's
we already know he's not. Trump has been a terrible, terrible disappointment. And, at this point, I remain undecided as to where I'm going to vote come November. Of course, we're all waiting to see who the Democratic nominee is going to be. But at this point, I'm not a Trump supporter anymore. I could become one again if he starts acting presidential. But you're absolutely right. These foreign interventions have gone on way, way too long. Too many people have died, and they're not really successful from the American point of view. We're losing in Afghanistan. We're getting kicked out of there. We're unable to succeed in Syria. Iraq is getting ready to kick us out. We're losing this one.
Well, I think the American point of view is just to make money and make sure Israel is happy. And Israel's point of view is just depopulate and enfeeble their immediate neighbors, just so they become wastelands and more manageable and depopulated. And if they just murder off a bunch of the Gentiles and send the Muslims to destabilize Europe, who cares? As long as the border of Israel's fine, that's all that matters. And that's who Donald Trump's real masters are. Donald Trump is the servant to the Zionists. He goes to AIPAC. At one diluted point, he says, "I'm the chosen one." He said that in his speech.
That was a little out there. Yeah, I saw that one. Yeah. That was a little out there.
And that was like an expression of his megalomania. They try to call him the Cyrus the Great or something. And clearly he's a deluded dual allegiance leader. And I would argue, and this is where the people who are the apologists for Trump and the advocates for Trump have to realize, if you're publicly advocating for a dual allegiance president who doesn't put his country's interests first, and this, what's that make you? What kind of patriot are you? If you go into the voting booth in November and vote for this man for what he's done. And one last point, and you're very kind, Michael, to let me speak, is I did switch parties last week. I drove up to my county registration election board, and I switched to being from a Republican, because I became a Republican back to help Ron Paul get elected, right? But now I'm switching, and I'm going to vote either Bernie or for Tulsi. And I think, and one last note, Tulsi should stay into the bitter end. And the reason is, Tulsi, listen to this, is just you can stop campaigning and focus on your reelection. I think she's probably up for her congressional seat, probably has to run for that. But yes. The point is, just stick around in case the coronavirus hits Biden and Bernie. So she's still around and can step forward and say, I'm healthy, I'm young, and I'm available. And I didn't quit.
Well, I would like to see her tapped to be somebody's vice president. That would carry a lot of weight for me making a decision who I'm going to vote for in November.
Yeah. Well, I'd vote for her just because, as the Lord says, blessed are the peacemakers. And she would try to, solve this problem of what's going on in Syria and end this carnage, because it really is a disgrace.
All right. Well, Paul, we're going to have to let you go. We got to take another break for commercials here, and we'll be back with more phone calls after these few words.
What Really Happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. And Fox News is now showing a banner that Mike Bloomberg says a contested convention is the only way he can win the Democratic nomination. Mike, that's not the sort of thing you put out there when the polls are still open on Super Tuesday. Of course, he's missed the first 4 primary states. He wasn't even on the ballot. Today is the first day that he's on the ballots here. But he's evidently pushing for a brokered convention. And of course, if it goes to a brokered convention, anything, and I mean anything, is possible. Let's go back to the phones. Andy in Texas, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Well, hey, Mike. Yeah, no, I think everybody should be from the state of Missouri, the show me state. Okay, so far we've got all these different statistics. They're calling it the coronavirus or the COVID-19 virus or whatnot. And they're all sticking to their word that these statistics, these people dying, these people involved. We've already heard that several states don't have enough test kits to test anybody, but all of a sudden we're realizing after people died that they actually had the COVID-19 or whatnot. I mean, there's no proof. I mean, it's like all these false flag shootings. We never see any bodies come out. We never see anybody. We never see any real proof. So again, where are our statistics coming from? They're coming from the mainstream media. I say that with air quotes, who just give us these figures and tell us how dangerous this thing is. And then you got to go back to China here. They're showing all these vacant streets and whatnot in China of nobody's out there. There's nobody's working and all this stuff. Well, don't forget they built several cities that have no inhabitants to them. And they're showing those streets. And you know that they're showing those streets because when you see all of the paintings on the roads and stuff, there's no tire tracks on them whatsoever. So they're showing these vacant streets and whatnot of people that are not working and this is not going on, blah, blah, blah. So as far as I'm concerned, COVID-19 is just, it's something they need to show us. They're not showing us anything. They could be reporting on deaths from Seattle's rest home because people died from the flu. People died from food poisoning. People died from bad care. But they're just throwing these things out there. And how do we have any proof that they're telling us any inkling of truth about how these people died? But they're throwing a panic up in here, and I think there's an agenda going on here, and I think Bill Gates is well embedded into it. But, okay, so what do you say on that, Mike?
Well, first of all, the patients who died up in Washington State have been confirmed to have had the coronavirus. And you're absolutely right, though. Getting accurate information one way or the other has been very, very difficult. The numbers are all over the place, especially for the current kill ratio. And we're going to have an article about that in a little bit from The Atlantic.
Well, we have this problem in America. It's called information. And when we can't get the information, I say that as, let's say, the alternative news. When we can't get the information, we take information from the public square, a.k.a. the MSN, and next thing you know, we're running with this news, and we're stuck. Because we don't have any way to confirm or deny it.
Okay, Andy, I got to let you go. We've got to take a break for station identification. Back with more phone calls after these few words.
What Really Happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, where you'll find out what the Fukushima's going on.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. We're going to go back to the phones to Joe in Tennessee. Aloha, Joe. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Well, I'd like to first kind of say that I agree with Neil in that I just sent money to both whatreallyhappened.com and RBN. It's pretty easy to do, and we really need to fund you guys so you can keep this source of information available, because who knows how much longer we'll be able to get our ideas and comments out, and it's a great platform for that. And it's not free, so if everybody, once in a while, it's pretty, you just go on and click on the donate icon and there you go. So I think that's a good thing to do if you have a little extra money or you want to support RBN and Mike. But anyway, I just wanted to call about, I hear a lot of comments about Trump, and, it seems to be it just goes from one target to another. I hear people, they complain about the wall, and immigration, and now immigration's down like 70%. He's building a wall. He got the Mexican army involved, and so now they move on to like immigration from Turkey into Europe. That's the big cause, They don't want to talk about the peace treaty in Afghanistan, the fact that, there's a war going on in Syria, but how many people were dying every year in Syria when Obama was president as compared to now? How many Syrian Christians were being executed by our Obama-supported ISIS terrorists? But that's not happening now, the president drone strike. We could, it's very difficult to just turn American foreign policy like, America's foreign policy is like a super tanker. It's not like a race car. It's incremental. And I would love to have Trump have been able to come in and take out the intelligence, the deep state intelligence people, the deep state in DOJ, the deep state in our the State Department, foreign policy. You can't. They killed Kennedy for that. It takes time, but I look at the general trends, and the general trends are we are moving towards peaceful resolutions in places, and we have one caller, he wants to count like the bullets that somebody's supplying in Syria. That stuff's going to go on. But, who's to say Trump's authorized that to begin with? If you watch what happened with this whole impeachment charade and what the Ukrainian foreign policy, there's a lot of stuff that's going on that's outside the president's control. I got news for you. But I look at the general trends. And the other thing is when I hear about Israel and Trump being a stooge for Israel, I look at it like Trump supports Israelis like any other president that we've had since Harry Truman, and Trump is supporting nationalist Israelis, So I figured whatever you get in a president, he's going to be kissing the Israelis' butt. And I'd rather have a president that's going to support nationalist Israelis, because I consider myself a white American nationalist. So I think we should make common cause with other populist nationalists in Europe and in Israel and everywhere. That's the thing. But I originally called because I wanted to talk about what's going on with the Super Tuesday. I was going to vote, and because Tennessee's got an open primary, I was going to go vote for Bernie. But then I said, this coronavirus, it's not enough to make me go do that. And I was just going to vote for Bernie because I think Bernie's getting ripped off, and they are going to rob him. There's no doubt in my mind they're going to rob him.
They're going to try.
I just find they're going to do it. It's going to happen. You can see everything's being set up already, and it's already going to happen. And then they're already making something so that Biden won't actually be running against Trump, because there's no way Biden can run against Trump. He's basically demented. He's got dementia. And there's so much like trash in his background that they're just sitting on with Ukraine and the corruption. Personally, I think he first originally started running just so that he could avoid indictment for all the crimes that he's been involved in. But don't think that stuff's not going to be coming out. So he's basically a dead candidate walking, but the Democratic establishment's just using him to stop Bernie. But I think it's a stopgap. And like I said, by the time of the convention, or even if he gets nominated, so there's no way. Could you imagine him in a debate with Trump? I mean, say what you want about Trump. Watch one of his press conferences out there on the White House lawn. He can think on his feet. I mean, he's smart. And then you watch Biden, and he's like a bumbling moron. I mean, he can't even get two sentences strung together without like stumbling and mumble mouthing it, and then telling these weird, demented stories. I mean, I don't know. It's actually kind of funny to watch him like with duct tape and baling wire keep him together. Keep him running where it's not a complete absolute farce. And I guess the problem is most people rely on the mainstream media, and of course the mainstream media, just like they didn't show Hillary's problems with her health, they're just kind of glossing over the Trump and his dementia. I mean, not Trump, but Biden. But I'm glad to see Buttigieg got out. I mean, I watched that. You talk about like a gay white Obama. I mean, he talked the same way. He had the same method of like speaking. They went to the same like intelligence community school on like how to like talk to the public. I mean, you talk about an intelligence asset. I watched one of his commercials the other day, and they had like a video of him when he came back from Afghanistan, when he was in the Naval Reserve or whatever. And I mean, it was so well done that you knew like this was the CIA. They had this guy like planned as an agent and what they were going to do with him for you, just like they did for Obama. This is the gay. Buttigieg is the gay Obama. He's an intelligence asset. He's just manufactured candidate, total establishment clown. And you can see like and that's what's interesting is watching these establishment clowns rally around Biden now. I mean, James Comey gave him his endorsement today. Bill Kristol gave him his endorsement. Everybody what's wrong with this country is giving Joe Biden their endorsements. The never Trumpers are giving it to him. So I got to say, I mean, as much as Bernie, Bernie, if he's elected, it'll be, no border, no walls, no USA at all. All these like lefty things about white people and guns, you'll lose your guns, and all the like fanatics, climate change crap. But at least he's not like a vile human being like some of these, people like Kristol and Buttigieg and Beto. I mean, so I would have, I probably, if I wasn't worried about the coronavirus, I would have voted for Bernie today just to give him a little lift. And but I think that I would love to see a Bernie versus Trump debate. I think Bernie can still think on his feet, and I think Trump does too. It's just like I always thought that what we got ripped off with Bob Dole was having a Buchanan-Clinton debate. I always would have loved to see a debate between Clinton and Buchanan because they both are very smart. And Buchanan, besides being smart, he had better positions as far as I was concerned. But so I think Trump versus Sanders, and I think Sanders represents the Democratic Party more than Biden does. The youth and the vigor of the Democratic Party is Sanders should be their champion, and let him go to war with. Like I said, I'd love to see that debate. It'd be that one. Trump versus Biden. I mean, give me a break. Biden, they'll figure a way not to show up.
All right. Well, thank you very much for the phone call. We're going to let you go. The phone lines are loading up here. We're going to go to James in Tokyo. James, thank you for waiting so patiently. What's on your mind?
Well, I think I need to extend a bite, Michael, because I'm so pissed off at you. You can't even imagine. I mean, first of all, I sent 5,432 love letters to the Lady Claire, and you threw them all away. And second of all, you moved to Indiana.
Were those all those emails that said your Social Security number's been used for a criminal enterprise?
That's the same one, Michael. And second, you moved to Indiana, and I have your email address. But I'm also pissed off because the first time I ever made a donation to you, I asked you for a signed photograph addressed to me in return for the donation, and I never got it. So I'm going to send another donation to Indiana. I'll email you for that address. And except this this time I want the same photograph except made for me and my kids. My kids have become fans of you. They call you the Aloha guy. They don't speak English, but they call you the Aloha guy.
Well,
because,
I got to
sometimes
take
when
new pictures. I got to take new pictures of Claire and I because I don't want it to be the publicity still of Dorian Gray.
All right. And oh yeah, I heard Dustin, fake news Dustin from New Jersey, and he was right on today, saying that people should stock up. Right now in Tokyo with the virus, you cannot buy any tissue paper, like a box tissue or toilet paper. So then I go on to Amazon and I'm trying to get like toilet paper, and it's like all sold out. I'm trying to go to like 7 different stores, all sold out. So yeah, you really need to like food is here though now again. But yeah, tissue paper is kind of like a problem. So I would just suggest that anybody who takes Dustin's advice, which you should, just go for the tissues. And basically, yeah, about the virus, yeah, it is very scary because a lot of people who don't have these symptoms are like spreading it all throughout. And I think Tokyo is ready to explode. America, you're just seeing like every day going up to different places, and it's just like with the masks, and they tell you like, oh, don't buy masks. Masks are great because it prevents you from spreading it. So about 100% of the people now, everybody's wearing a mask, and if you don't have a mask, people look at you like like they want to kill you because it's such a disrespectful thing to do, to try and spread your own disease in Japan to someone else. So it's just it's very stressful. But yeah, another week. Once I get my exercise equipment in my apartment in Tokyo, I'll be out at my beach house, my kids, well, one of my kids, and relax and do some fishing. And there's no one around me, and I don't have to worry about it anymore. That's all I have to say.
All right. Well, good luck, and good luck finding some toilet tissue. I know how difficult that can be when it runs out, because we went through that following the Northridge earthquake. Anyway, thank you for the phone call. We're going to let you go and switch over to Miles in Maine. Aloha, Miles. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Aloha, Michael. Paul makes a lot of good calls, and I really love his passion, but I agree with Joe. No matter how much we say we don't like Trump, when it comes down to the end of the day, he's still the best thing out there. Yeah, does he kiss some other countries up that we don't like? Sure. You think for a minute Bernie's not going to change if he were to be elected to the White House? How's Bernie going to do with these social programs he's talking about? And yeah, Bernie might have a couple good points with some of his foreign policy and things like that. Bernie's going to bankrupt us the socialist way. Okay, not as if we're not already in bad enough shape, but at least the figure of Trump can float this economy so far, it seems like, in 4 years. Okay, then you got Tulsi. I'm not willing to fight with Tulsi over my gun rights and to fight with her about open borders. And you know what? We don't need another CFR member. So unless you got something better than Trump, because Tulsi and Bernie aren't going to appoint 1,100 new federal judges, especially and try and straighten out that Ninth Circuit. And they're not going to be for prayer in school, and they're not going to be against oppose abortion. So, for all the things that people argue about Trump over these issues, and he's had his own party, the other party, the media, and the globalists against him from the time he come in, there's nobody, I want to repeat that, nobody that's going to do any better. And he's the best we got. And that's not saying a whole lot. And I'm not a huge Trump fan. But when it comes down to summing up the end of the day, Trump is the best man, period.
Well, as I said, I'm undecided what I'm going to do in November. And I may just write in Claire's name on the ballot.
Yeah, that'd be good. But Now all we got to do is raise the money to get Claire elected, and we'll all be doing great. But that's just how I feel, Michael. I think, Trump's no panacea, that's for sure. Yeah, he's let us down a lot, but he has done a lot of good things. And none of these other people, these people from that entire other party are insane, as well as 95% of the Republican Party. So I think we got to take Trump, be lucky that we got him, and run with him, because that's all we got for now. And in fact, we better start looking after the 2024 who we might be able to get and put in place that could have something that we could all rally around, maybe a Nunes or a Kevin McCarthy or somebody like that. But Jim Jordan would be my choice at this point. But, the truth is we're not going to get a third party in, because they're not going to allow that.
No.
And everybody else in these parties is already owned and controlled. So it's a two-party system. That's just how it is. Yeah, on a state level or something, you might get a libertarian here or there or an independent party, but you're not going to do it on a federal level, because they block that. They totally block that when it comes to getting on the ballot, getting signatures, raising money, and performing in debates. And they're not going to allow it. So we're stuck with the two, and now we got to pick the best of the two. And I think Trump, when it's all said and done, unfortunately, he is by far the best of those two parties. Thank you very much, Michael. Have a great show.
All right, thanks an awful lot. What you're basically saying is he's the lesser of two evils, which means he's still evil. All righty, so let's see. We're going to go to Tom in Florida. Aloha, Tom. I may have to take you through the next commercial break. What's on your mind?
Aloha, Michael. Aloha to you. I just want to shout out to Andy, Joe, and Miles. Great calls. All three of those guys made great calls today. And I really like their calls. But what I want to talk about first off, that one guy, Andy, he was absolutely right. China has cities, Michael, underground that are 600 feet underground. You're not hearing nothing about this coronavirus in Russia too much. And Russia borders China. We're hearing about there's all these cases in Italy and the United States. But we're not hearing about a big outbreak of coronas in Russia. Because, Russia also has cities underground, too, 600-700 feet underground, big cities in case there's a nuclear war. So, and now Andy was right on the money. Some of these cities, they look like the cars never even rode on the streets. So I thought that guy Andy made a really excellent call there. And, getting back to that one guy, Paul, that guy, every time he calls his show, he bashes Trump, Michael. He's always bashing Trump. Guy said he was an independent, a Republican, now he's an independent. Listen, the last caller you just had is absolutely right. What's your alternative? Bernie Sanders or Joe bumbling Biden? The guy's got a brain of a 98-year-old man. The guy's got senility. He can't get a sentence right. Can you imagine Trump and him in a debate, Michael? It would be insane. This guy Biden's not going to even control the government if he gets elected. He'll have a bunch of schmucks will tell him what to be doing. Okay? The media will tell him what to do, and mainly the schmucks will tell him what to do. Hollywood. I mean, this guy Biden's a bumbling moron. He's probably going to go to jail for all the money he stole, him and his son. He even said Buttigieg looks like his reminds me of his son, Bo. I mean, we're looking at a guy, Biden, bumbling in the matter of fact, Michael, so you know, and everyone in your listening audience knows this. There was 25,000 Cubans on Little Havana that are having a big protest yesterday about Bernie Sanders. No Democrats can win the state of Florida now. I can tell you that right now. Biden, I don't care who it is. They're not winning this state. I don't know about the rest of those Mexifornia states, but they're not going to win Florida because even the Cubans are out there right now protesting Bernie Sanders and the Democrats because they've gone so socialist. Now, California, Michael, and here's the main thing. I don't know. Have you had a chance to see One American News today? Michael?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I haven't. Are you there? Tom? Did we lose Tom? He might have dropped. All right, well, let's go to Bob well, actually, no, we're coming up here in a commercial break. So we're going to take a few minutes for some words from our sponsors, and we'll be right back.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. Join Mike on the air. Call toll-free 800-313-9443. 800-313-9443.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show. And Tom is back on the line. Tom, sorry, we had a little bit of a technical glitch, kind of a mechanical problem. There was a loose nut on the microphone. So, Tom, no, I did not watch One News Network today.
Okay, well, Michael, what they had on today was the guy that was the strategic guy for the Democratic Party. Everything you've been saying on your shows for months, Michael, is true. This guy's saying, well, they're bringing illegals into Texas. They're bringing all these Californians into Texas to turn that state blue. They have modus of operandi for the whole Democrat Party. And I want this Paul guy that calls your show to listen to this. They're trying to turn that state blue at all costs by bringing Californians in there, illegal aliens, and get them right to vote, like you've been saying that Trump's not doing enough about it. And you're absolutely right. Now, New York and New Jerseyans are moving into Virginia and Carolinas. They're trying to turn those states blue because these same liberals that can't even control their own state for their taxes and their insurance rates and everything, they're trying to turn these other states that are actually were conservative at one time red. They want them blue because they're trying to annihilate this country with their lying, filthy, conniving, thieving, stealing ways. Because the Democrat Party is a bunch of socialist Bolsheviks. If you've been looking at Brett Baer's show for the last, he's going to have a 6-part series, Brett Baer, about socialism and Bernie Sanders. Have you seen that, Michael? What, Brett Baer?
Yes.
On Fox News? That was fantastic. Every American, young kid should see that. They should be forced to watch that in high school. All these college millennials, they should be forced to watch what communism does to a country. The Bolsheviks made Adolf Hitler look like a pansy, okay? The Bolsheviks made the Nazis look like babies, okay? Beria, Levante Beria. Ever read the book about Levante Beria, Michael?
I've read about him, but I don't know that I've read the specific book you refer to.
Well, I can tell you this. He made Adolf Hitler look like a baby. Beria and Stalin and Lenin, they made Hitler look like a pansy. And I tell you right now, even Patton knew it in World War II. He said, in the movie Patton with George C. Scott, we fought the wrong sons of bitches. Because he knew that we should have turned on the Russians. He actually was ahead of the Bavarian army, Patton. And he knew that the Russians, the communist Bolsheviks, were worse than the Nazis. And so did Bradley, and so did MacArthur, all of them. All those high commanders in our military in World War II knew that the Bolsheviks were worse than the Nazis. And you know that. And if you don't, maybe you should read up on it because even Brett Baer had it on his show on Fox News. Now, getting to all some of these callers that already bashing Trump. Yeah, Trump is no angel. He's not the greatest thing. But like your Miles said, Miles was right on the money. He's the best thing we got out there because look, all these other guys are going to be 80 years old. Biden, Bernie, the Doomberg's the oldest of all of them. Doomberg, that schmuck. I mean, you're going to have these people wanting to run the country right into the ground. At least Trump is trying to, say basically, hey, let's try to keep this country with our American flag. He's always promoting the American flag, the pioneers who built this country. Not a bunch of Bolsheviks are trying to say we got to bring all more illegals in here, and the white man's such a bad devil. Like you had this Al Green screaming out how bad white he is when this guy's go over there with a picture with Louis Farrakhan hugging him. Can you imagine if Donald Trump would have a picture of that? This Al Green screaming about racism today on the House floor, about how bad white people are? Who's kidding who here? And like I told you, these Cubans in Miami, they're fired up like I've never seen them. They're more fired up than they were when Fidel Castro died 2 years ago, whenever that was, and they have a big parade in Little Havana when he died. These Cubans are here now are so pissed off what's going on, Michael, with this Bernie Sanders and this communist crap, and even Biden. They're not going to. The state of Florida's not going to vote for that. Any of those Democratic morons. Because look at Debbie Blabbermouth Schultz. That's another disgrace. We're having young girls going at Trump's rally with posters that said FUCK to President of the United States with devil horns coming out. Give me a break, Michael. I mean, these Democrats are ruthless. They've taken over our colleges. They're filthy, low-life rats is what they are. They know what it says in their name. They're jackasses and they're rats. They're demon rats. And their motto and their mascot is a donkey. Think about it.
Yes.
They are what they are. They're lying hypocrites. They're disgusting. They're disgraceful. And you know that one guy always is bashing Trump? Come on, man. Well, if you don't like this country, take a trip over to Cuba. Go over to Cuba and see how it is, man. Go to Venezuela. Matter of fact, go to Haiti. Come on, who's kidding who? I mean, you know, we always hear about, Trump is this. Hey, Trump is no angel, Michael. And he has to, like the one caller said, he has to kiss Israeli butt because they run the media. They run the media in the United States of America. Who's kidding who? I don't see about 10 billionaires, white-angle Christian billionaires go by ABC, NBC, or CBS. Could you imagine if they had just one of those networks? Who would be running this? Trump would be running every state. He'd be running every state, 50 states, like Ronald Reagan. He would crush the demon rats if they actually had one major network. But they have to do everything on Fox News or OAN. They don't have no cable networks that do. The Democrats, the schmucks control everything. Who's kidding who? And they're being exposed. And they're going to be really exposed if Trump gets another 4 years, I can tell you that. And it's going to happen. Because all the people I talk to, they're fed up with these demon rats.
Yeah.
Michael, they get better health care than you and I get, and your wife gets, and my wife gets. These Democrats, an illegal alien gets better treatment than we do. For goodness sakes, you got 8 million illegals in the state of California, and they're all having housing, but you got 185,000 people that are homeless in the streets of California, or 280,000, whatever it is. How's this happening? But again, Section 8 housing.
Politics.
I don't understand what's going on. And I tell you one thing, Michael, you don't hear one page about coronas in Russia. How come the Russians don't have coronas all over there? They're bordered with China.
They do, but they closed the border with China. Anyway, Tom, I'm going to have to let you go. We got other callers waiting on the line, and we'll be back after these few words.
When all this twisted steel was swept away, did these remaining holes reveal what's really happened?
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. We're going to go right back to the phones to Bob in Utah. Bob, thank you for waiting so patiently. What's on your mind today?
Oh, hey, who was that last caller? That guy's the fastest talking guy I've ever heard. Was it Tom from Florida?
That's Tom from Florida.
Holy cow.
I think he does
That's
like
amazing.
4 double shot espressos before he picks up that phone and hits the speed dial.
Yeah, I called in because I wanted to challenge you on the moon landing, and your screen caller said you wouldn't even talk to me. Probably cut me off.
Yeah, probably I will, because we've been over this so many times in the past, and again, all
with me you haven't.
Well, I'm trying to do this without being rude, but I mean, all of the
Well,
Apollo.
so am I. I actually like you a lot. I think you got the best show on the air. So.
Well, let me
I'm
just
not gonna
say.
get personal.
Let me just say this. All of the Apollo landing sites have now been imaged by other satellites, some from countries that aren't necessarily friends with us. And so, I mean, the photographs are there showing the lower stage of the lunar module. For the later landing sites, they're showing the rovers. They're showing all the footprints are still out there. So, yeah, the moon landings really did happen. And thank you very much. We're going to let you go and switch over to Bruce in Texas. Aloha, Bruce. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yes, hello, Mike. I'm going to be brief, but I'm going to try to be concise here. I assume, based upon listening to your show for a number of years and listening to the callers, that we have an older listenership, which isn't bad, okay? But, you know, I believe in getting out of the echo chamber and kind of being a little bit empathetic towards the younger voters. I think from listening to you, you had basically a middle-class upbringing. Am I correct on that?
Not really. I was a farm kid. I grew up on a farm in New Hampshire, and my family moved to California when I was 12, and the culture shock was rather intense there. So I would say probably, you know, during my high school years, I had a middle-class existence, and then, of course, I went to college and went right back to poverty.
Got you. But you did some work, you know, as you got out of college, you had entry-level jobs or what have you. I'm in my 50s.
I had an entry-level job at the National Aeronautics and Space Administration.
Good for you. But basically, when I was 17, 18, and then I joined the military, but before and after that, and when you applied for a job, you had basically health insurance offered to you. You know, almost every job I had. You know, and you had options for levels of coverage, and you also had a health savings account, and you had dental. And that's not the case with a lot of young people today. It's such a cutthroat economy, and you know, then having the H-1Bs, thanks to Trump, you know, he's the importer in chief as far as legally. It's very tough on kids to make it, and to get, if you get one hospital bill that's kind of halfway severe, you're crushed, you know. And so you have to look at that. And then I haven't seen Trump go on the streets and try to, you know, at least make a gesture towards all these kids that are wrapped up in this heroin addiction. You know, I haven't heard him mention it one time. Have you?
No, I haven't.
No, see, he panders to the Wall Street, okay? And if you're upset, or not you personally, but people are upset because, oh, Bernie's a socialist and he's gonna, you know, he's gonna raise taxes or whatever. And the illegals are already covered. They go in the hospital, they use a different name, or they just get taken care of through the COBRA Act, and they go in and out, and then the costs are passed on to regular American citizens. You know, and so all I'm getting at is you know, just think about that for a little bit. You know, you got to look at the other person's perspective. Are we offering anything? Is Trump? You know, I voted for Trump, but has he's done anything for the middle class other than maybe getting a few factories to come back, and people are working still 2 jobs? You know, I don't know. What do you have to say?
Well, he brought some companies back to the United States, but it was only a token amount. When you're looking at the true scale of unemployment in this country, the few job gains that they claim that they've made are really kind of insignificant. And Trump has been a disappointment. What can I tell you? And at this point, I'm undecided what I'm going to do in November.
Right. Yeah. And as far as, you know, Tom in Florida, you know, he hits a lot of good points, but, you know, sometimes he comes across like General Jack the Ripper there in Dr. Strangelove, you know.
Yes.
You know, look here, communism is not a catch-all, you know. The 1940 Soviet Russia and every damn country has been tried, you know, and we've hampered a lot of anyone who wouldn't bend the knee to the United States, such as Cuba, who kicked out the corrupt Batista regime. You know, they hit with punishing sanctions, just like Venezuela, just like we're doing right now with Iran. You know, that book, Confessions of an Economic Hitman, you know, I suggest reading it to see what the cause and effect is, a lot of the problems that these countries have. And with Vietnam, you know, Ho Chi Minh offered the U.S. after World War II, he wanted Vietnam to be a protectorate, just like the Philippines, and we refused them. And so he went to war with the corrupt South Vietnam government, and basically, you know, we create our own problems. And in Vietnam now, look at it now. I mean, it's booming. So don't give me that, you know, socialism, communism. It's just a matter of who does it and how it's implemented. That's all I got.
Any system can be made to work perfectly if all of its citizens are saints. The problem is that we have people who are not saints, and the worst of them are the ones who seek political power.
Right. Well, yeah, and our culture has turned so greedy and so self-centered and so egotistical that we don't take care of our own anymore. My grandfather worked for the same company for 60 years, and they set him up, you know, with retirement, and he was taken care of. He loved where he worked. We would have parties there. They'd invite the families. We'd go on fishing trips. The companies don't do that anymore. They just use you up and throw you away.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, anyway, that's all I got.
All right. Well, thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go, and we're going to go to Dan in Washington State. Aloha, Dan. How you feeling up there?
I'm trying not to eat fast food and avoiding the salad bar everywhere. Know that. So, but I drive trucks. I get food poisoning all the time anyway, so I'm kind of used to it. You know. See how it goes.
So, what's on your mind today?
I kind of agree with the last call. I agree with him and Tom. I go back and forth on Trump. I'm just not going to vote this time. I don't see much hope. I think I think that I'm not going to vote Republican ever again, and I get tired of the socialism thing too because we spend $1 trillion on military, and the Republicans have no. They tell these kids to go to college. They take advantage of them. The textbook companies take advantage of them. It's a big money maker, and you have a 25-year-old girl, $80,000 in debt, and the Republicans just want to blame that girl and say, well, you're stupid. You shouldn't have gone to college. Well, kids are always going to, not always, but a lot of kids want to do what their parents tell them or what the school system tells them, and they tell them all to go to college. But, Bernie is the only one that addresses that problem. And, and same with healthcare. I think we cut our own throats sometimes because we pay enough taxes to have a lot more stuff than we get in America. I mean,
Well, somebody did a poll recently. Somebody did a poll recently where they found out the majority of Americans do not agree with how their tax money is being spent, and I'm certainly one of them.
yeah, I mean, there's homeless people everywhere. The Reagan thing was to bash welfare and all this stuff. Well, again, $1 trillion a year on military for just stuff that doesn't make sense and waste and foreign aid. Trump, the judges, and that is important. But then I wonder what kind of judges, like, the Republicans have passed these laws against boycotting Israel, which are unconstitutional, I think. And
yes,
I just wonder how many of these judges are like these hardcore Zionist judges that, we could end up getting screwed there too. They might just take away our freedom of speech.
Don't forget the Democrats voted for that same law. It wasn't just the Republicans.
Right.
And you're right. It's unconstitutional. It's a clear violation of the First Amendment.
Yep. So if it wasn't for Ed Kushner, I just don't like Kushner in there. Mr. 666 Fifth Avenue or whatever. I mean, he seems to be running the government. I don't think he should be. I don't know. I'm just not going to vote. I'm not going to vote for either one. I'd almost rather just have an enemy that's in your face as far as the immigration issue and just bring the system down faster that way than have the Republicans just, Trump does pander to the stock market. He put Goldman Sachs people in there. The corporate tax cut, that the whole economy doing better is a lot of just stock buybacks and schemes like that. I'm not going to vote Republican again. Trump's about the only one that's halfway decent, maybe Rand Paul, but for the most part, they're always going to sell you out in the end.
Well, again, both parties do that.
Right. Yeah. Democrats have gotten insane. I don't even know what to say there. I mean, it's just, so what are you going to do? And that's what leads to my next question is about gold and silver. What would you buy if it all does come crashing down, which I think could happen?
Well,
What do you think is a better investment, gold and silver?
Silver has more room to grow than gold right now, and gold tends to be the focus of all the efforts to try and keep metal prices down so that people stay in the equities market. But I would go with silver, and the second reason to go with silver is you can get what is called junk silver, which are the pre-1964 quarters and dimes, which are made out of silver, and they're going to make a very convenient token for barter if the economy really does come down.
That's a good point. Okay, that's what I was thinking, silver too. So, all right, thanks. Those are my comments. Thanks for taking the call. I appreciate all different sides on the Trump issue. I don't have any strong feelings. He kind of sucked out on my mojo last election, and I was really hardcore for Trump. But I don't have any fight left in me as far as who to vote for. So, anyway, thanks for taking the call.
All right, thanks an awful lot for the phone call. We're going to let you go. The phone lines are open now, 800-313-9443. And I don't know, I may get to November and not vote at all because voting just seems to encourage the bastards. Getting on back to the coronavirus here, the CDC has stopped disclosing the number of Americans tested for coronavirus and the number of deaths from coronavirus. The little chart over at the CDC website, those two little boxes disappeared overnight. And a Democratic congressman has condemned the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention for the inexplicable decision to stop publicly disclosing the number of Americans who've been tested for the virus. Since the outbreak arrived in the U.S., the CDC has posted stats on its website which showed how many confirmed cases there were, the total number of U.S. deaths, and how many people were tested for the disease. But Representative Mark Pocan noted Monday that the site no longer discloses the number of tests or the number of deaths. He wrote an angry letter to CDC Director Robert Redfield, and he wrote, "Americans are dying. We deserve to know how many people have been tested for or who have died from COVID-19. By the way, somebody just sent me in a clarification. We had a caller earlier saying that there was this pro-Trump individual who suggested infecting Trump supporters with coronavirus. Turns out it's a Democratic lawmaker. I'll be posting that link on the next commercial break here. Okay, South Korea is going to start screening all passengers for elevated temperatures for all U.S. flights. If you're standing in line to board the plane, they're going to walk on down there with one of these forehead scanners. And if you're running a fever, you will not be allowed onto the airplane. So it's a mandatory temperature check, which unfortunately doesn't get around the fact that you can have the coronavirus and not be symptomatic. But it's better than nothing. Dr. Matt McCarthy, he's a staff physician at New York Presbyterian Hospital. He works in the emergency room. He went on national television and warned that there will be thousands of confirmed coronavirus cases inside the United States by next week. I hope he's wrong. I think he's wrong. I think it's going to be about 6 to 8 weeks before we really start seeing numbers like we're seeing in Iran or China. All right, we're going to take a phone call. Mark in New York, aloha, welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hey, Mike, thanks for taking my call. Good afternoon. Well, I wanted to call because I heard a little bit about Paulie Bookworm talking about, his pandemic stuff and the stuff and Trump and stuff. And I still hear a lot of volatile stuff. And I did go back and listen to what books there were. And I still got to say, I relate this pandemic theory to climate science. I went through and I looked at the books. First one being Dr. Seuss' Democrat in the Hat. And that's supposed to be Democrat in a hat. I thought you did. Thanks for laughing at that. But in all seriousness, so I look it up, all right? And public health, Lawrence Smiley, the plague, it's fiction, so I didn't bother with that. And then the coming plague, Laurie Garrett, I didn't start, but then he pointed out the plagues and people, which he said he really thought that was important. So I looked it up, and clearly right there, William McNeil, lo and behold, cloistered, tenured professor, first book in 1963, born in Canada. Guess where he was teaching? University of Chicago, right at the height in the mid-'60s. Comes out with a world book. He got his master's and is all in arts. So it had nothing to do with science, nothing to do with medicine. And his thesis was related to two guys, whatever it was, Herodotus and Thucydides, I believe it is. And both these guys were historians, but one of them was blamed for making things up in his books. And they're like historians from studying BC, 500 BC or something like that, the history. But I looked at it, and a couple of things they mentioned.
Mark, I got to put you on hold. Don't hang up.
All right.
We're going to take a commercial break. I'm going to come right back to you.
Here, we the people, in order to form a more perfect domestic tranquility. Provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. We're talking with Mark in New York. We're talking about history as it relates to pandemics. And Mark, just sort of pick up where you left off.
Yes, thank you, Mike. Well, the reason why I looked at the books was to use this technique too, because there was a lot, and I figured there were going to be technical books and long books. So I used the speed reading, where I learned a couple of basically, you look at the author, you read the intro, you read the foreword to the book, you find out about the author, you find out what's going around during those years, that time that he wrote the book. It could mean something. And in this case, with the book I looked at, Plagues and People with William McNeill, that did matter for me, because he was like brought up right in the middle of this whole progressive term and working out at the University of Chicago. And that sets up a red flag. Immediately when I read that, I was like, I don't know if I should go forward with this, but I could get the book. I can look at the contents and see and formulate questions. And then to speed read, then you take 2 seconds a page and you just rip through the book and see what the mind and the eyes pick up. It's a great way to do it, especially for these like technical and history books. But one thing about William McNeill, he looks like your tenured lib and in the radical 60s working out in Chicago, where the final thing that I read about was that in 2010, President Barack Obama, a former U of C professor himself, awarded McNeill the National Humanities Medal to recognize his exceptional talent as a teacher scholar at the University of Chicago. So this guy writing this book, he's just an arts guy, not a scientist, not a doctor. He's writing stuff on pandemic, or it's called Plagues and People, that guys like Paulie Bookworm is calling in saying, oh, I read this book. So there are other things that I put down here too, that he disagreed with Francis Fukuyama, The End of History and The Last Man. One thing that really worried me, that Fukuyama said, the end of history means liberal democracy is the final form of government for all nations. There can be no progression from liberal democracy to an alternative system, meaning that said to me that this Western, his whole book, Fukuyama's book, is about Western society, and at the end of it means trouble. And this McNeill disagreed with that the Western government and business, and most likely capitalism, does have he disagreed with that if it ended, there would be nothing to go forward. And I think that means he disagreed with that because he believed that there are alternatives such as socialism or communism or something. I think that's where McNeill was going to. And his books were they're all reviewed and raved about in the New Yorker, the New York Times Book Review, and the Washington Compost. So it just read, and I didn't even have to read this stuff. And that's what I do now with the other guys. I'll look coming up in the next few days and see what their background is. Laurie Garrett with Coming Plague. The Plague is fiction, about 1800 France. Albert Camus, I think the name is, and then Public Health, Lawrence Smiley. That could be a good one. But
okay,
overall,
well, Mark, I'm sorry, I got to let you go. We got to take a break for station identification. Back with another phone call after these few words.